Something is trying to get your attention, and it is not loud, not dramatic, not impossible to miss. In fact, it is quiet, subtle, almost easy to ignore. Yet the more you brush it aside, the more it returns. Have you felt that gentle pull in your chest when you are about to make a decision you know is not right for you? Have you noticed how certain connections leave you drained while others leave you clear, calm, and strengthened? Many people call this intuition. Others call it conscience. Some simply call it a warning. Whatever name you choose, the experience is universal, and it often shows up strongest in matters of love. There is a strange pattern that repeats itself across human lives. Just before someone enters a relationship that will challenge their peace, small signs begin to appear. A hesitation you cannot explain. A feeling that something is slightly off. A quiet voice asking you to slow down. Why do so many people ignore that voice? Why do we convince ourselves that emotion is always truth? That intensity must mean destiny? That longing must mean alignment? The truth is that strong feelings can sometimes be signals, not confirmations. They can be alerts rather than approvals. Consider this carefully. Not every opportunity is meant for you, and not every affection is safe for your spirit. Real love does not rush you into confusion. Real care does not pressure you into silence. Genuine connection does not require you to abandon your clarity. When something is truly right, it does not demand that you betray your inner sense of peace to keep it. So if you feel pressure instead of peace, urgency instead of understanding, chaos instead of clarity, could it be that you are being warned rather than guided? Many thoughtful people across cultures have believed that life provides signals to protect us, especially when our emotions threaten to overpower our wisdom. These signals rarely arrive as dramatic events. More often, they arrive as discomfort. A sentence that lingers in your mind, a behavior you cannot forget, a pattern you keep noticing. These are not punishments. They are invitations to pay attention. But here is the challenge. Warnings do not force you. They only invite you. You still have the freedom to listen or ignore, to pause or proceed, to reflect or rush forward. And that freedom is powerful, because it means your future is not decided by the warning itself, but by your response to it. Will you dismiss what you feel because you want something to work so badly? Or will you respect the signal and ask yourself what it is trying to protect? There is nothing weak about stepping back. There is nothing fearful about reconsidering. In fact, it often takes more strength to pause than to pursue. People who learn to recognize these quiet alerts tend to avoid unnecessary heartbreak, not because they are lucky, but because they are attentive. They understand that love should add light to their life, not dim it. And once you begin to notice these signs, you may realize they were never rare. They were always there, patiently waiting for you to take them seriously. The difficulty is that warnings rarely feel dramatic in the moment. They often arrive disguised as small doubts, fleeting thoughts, or subtle tensions you try to rationalize away. You might tell yourself you are overthinking. You might say you are being too cautious. You might even convince yourself that discomfort is simply part of love. But is it really? Or is that explanation something people repeat because they were taught to ignore their own inner signals? Think about the times you sensed something was not right but moved forward anyway. Maybe you noticed inconsistency in someone's words. Maybe you felt a quiet unease after certain conversations. Maybe you saw signs of disrespect disguised as jokes or control disguised as care. At first, these moments seemed minor, almost unimportant. Yet over time, they formed a pattern. Looking back, you realized the warning had been there from the beginning. The question is not whether signals exist. The question is why we silence them. Part of the reason is desire. When we want something badly enough, we start editing reality. We highlight what feels good and blur what feels wrong. We focus on potential instead of patterns. We listen to promises instead of observing behavior. Desire can be persuasive. It can make us believe that patience will fix what clarity is trying to reveal. But deep down, there is often a quiet awareness that keeps whispering, asking us to look again. Another reason is fear. Not fear of the person, but fear of letting go of the idea of companionship, the idea of being chosen, the idea of finally having what you have hoped for. Letting go of a possibility can feel like losing something real, even if that possibility was never truly secure. So we negotiate with our own instincts. We say, maybe it will change. Maybe it will improve. Maybe I am misreading this. Yet how often does truth actually hide from someone who is honestly paying attention? There is wisdom in learning the difference between nervousness and warning. Nervousness is natural when something matters to you. It comes with excitement, anticipation, and growth. A warning feels different. It carries heaviness, confusion, and contradiction. One expands your clarity. The other clouds it. One strengthens your sense of self. The other slowly weakens it. Recognizing this distinction can transform the way you approach relationships, because it shifts your focus from chasing feelings to understanding signals. Those who learn to listen early often avoid lessons that others must learn through pain. Not because they are more intelligent or more fortunate, but because they are more attentive. They treat their inner awareness as a guide rather than an obstacle. They understand that a quiet warning is not there to ruin their chances at love. It is there to protect their capacity for it. And once you begin to see warnings this way, they no longer feel like barriers. They feel like guardians, gently steering you toward what is genuine and away from what only appears to be. There is a powerful shift that happens the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to show me?" That single change in perspective can turn confusion into clarity, because sometimes what feels like a delay is actually protection. Sometimes what feels like rejection is actually redirection, and sometimes what feels like loss is actually a quiet rescue you will only understand later. Many people spend years chasing relationships that were never meant to last, not because they were foolish, but because they mistook intensity for meaning. Intensity can feel convincing. It can feel like proof that something is important. But fire is intense too, and fire does not always build. Sometimes it burns. The real question is not how strongly you feel something. The real question is what that feeling is producing inside you. Is it making you more peaceful or more anxious? More grounded or more uncertain? More yourself or less? It is easy to ignore these questions when emotions are loud. Strong attraction can drown out quiet wisdom. Excitement can silence caution. Hope can overshadow evidence. Yet truth has a way of repeating itself. It shows up again and again, sometimes through patterns, sometimes through consequences, sometimes through that persistent inner knowing you cannot quite explain. Why does it repeat? Because understanding rarely comes from a single signal. It often comes from a series of reminders. Consider how many times people say, "I saw the signs, but I ignored them." That sentence appears in countless stories across cultures and generations. Rarely do people say, "There were no signs at all." This suggests something profound about human experience. Guidance is often present, but recognition requires awareness, and awareness requires honesty. Not honesty about the other person first, but honesty about yourself, about what you truly feel beneath the surface, about what you sense when you are quiet, about what you know when you stop trying to convince yourself otherwise. There is strength in that kind of honesty. It does not make you cold or distant. It makes you discerning. Discernment is not the enemy of love. It is the protector of it. Without discernment, affection can become attachment, and attachment can become entanglement. But with discernment, love becomes intentional. It becomes something chosen with clarity instead of clung to out of fear. So if you sense a warning stirring within you, do not rush to silence it. Sit with it, listen to it, ask what it sees that you may have overlooked. That quiet signal may be the difference between a path that drains you and one that strengthens you. And if you learn to respect it now, you may discover that it was never trying to stop your happiness. It was trying to guide you toward a kind of connection that does not require you to sacrifice your peace in order to keep it. At some point, everyone faces a moment of decision where the heart wants one thing and the inner voice suggests another. That moment is often quiet, almost invisible, yet it carries enormous weight. It is the crossroads where impulse meets insight. What you choose there can shape months, even years of your life. So, when that gentle signal appears, the real question is not whether you hear it. The question is whether you trust it. Trusting that inner awareness is not always easy. It asks you to pause when you want to rush. It asks you to reflect when you want to act. It asks you to accept possibilities you may not like. But consider this carefully. Wisdom rarely shouts. It speaks in calm tones. Urgency, on the other hand, is often loud. Urgency pressures. Wisdom invites. Urgency insists you decide now. Wisdom reassures you that truth does not expire if it is real. Which voice do you usually follow? There is a quiet dignity in choosing patience over pressure. When you allow yourself time to observe, you begin to see things more clearly. You notice patterns instead of promises. You notice consistency instead of charm. You notice actions instead of declarations. And those observations reveal something powerful. What is genuine does not fear your discernment. Authentic intentions do not resist your questions. Honest affection does not shrink under your awareness. If something weakens when you look at it closely, was it ever strong to begin with? Some people worry that listening to warnings will make them miss opportunities. But the opposite is often true. Ignoring clear signals is what leads people into situations that cost them peace, confidence, and time. Paying attention, on the other hand, sharpens your ability to recognize what truly deserves your energy. It refines your judgment. It strengthens your self-respect. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds you that your well-being is not something you should ever have to negotiate away. You are not meant to silence your discernment to keep someone interested. You are not meant to overlook unease, just to avoid being alone. And you are certainly not meant to ignore the quiet guidance within you simply because your emotions are loud. That inner awareness exists for a reason. It is part of the wisdom woven into human nature itself, a safeguard that helps you distinguish between what shines briefly and what truly endures. So if you feel that gentle warning now, do not dismiss it as doubt. Treat it as insight. Reflect on it with sincerity. Ask what it is revealing, what it is protecting, what it is preparing you for, because sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is not holding on. Sometimes it is stepping back. And when you learn to honor that signal, you may find that what you once feared was a barrier was actually guidance leading you toward a love that is steady, clear, and worthy of your peace. There is a quiet realization that often arrives after you have ignored one warning too many. It does not come with noise or drama. It comes with clarity. Suddenly you see the pattern you once denied. You recognize the feeling you once dismissed. You understand that the signal you kept questioning was actually trying to protect you all along. And in that moment, something changes within you. You stop doubting your perception. You stop arguing with your instincts. You begin, perhaps for the first time, to truly trust yourself. Self-trust is powerful, yet many people are never taught how to develop it. They are taught to seek approval, to follow expectations, to prioritize appearances. But rarely are they encouraged to listen inward. And when you are not used to listening inward, your own insight can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. You might hesitate. You might second guess. You might wonder whether you are being too cautious or too sensitive. But what if that sensitivity is not a flaw? What if it is a form of awareness that allows you to perceive what others overlook? Think about how different life would feel if you treated your inner guidance as an ally instead of an obstacle. Imagine approaching relationships not with fear, but with attentiveness. Imagine recognizing misalignment early, rather than explaining it away. Imagine choosing connections that support your peace instead of testing your limits. This is not about becoming guarded or distant. It is about becoming clear. Clarity does not close your heart. It directs it. Many people only learn this lesson after pain forces them to. They look back and see the signs they ignored, the feelings they silenced, the truths they postponed. Yet regret is not the purpose of those memories. Their purpose is instruction. They show you what your inner voice sounds like. They remind you how it tried to guide you. And once you recognize its tone, you can hear it more easily the next time it speaks, because it will speak again. Life continually presents choices, and each choice carries signals. Some will feel light, steady, reassuring. Others will feel heavy, rushed, uncertain. The difference between these experiences is not accidental. It is information. And information is a gift, especially when it helps you avoid paths that would cost you your peace. So, when that quiet awareness rises within you, welcome it. Do not rush to silence it just because it complicates your plans. Do not dismiss it just because it challenges your hopes. Instead, pause long enough to understand it. Ask yourself what it sees, what it senses, what it knows that your excitement may be hiding. This pause is not hesitation. It is wisdom in motion. In the end, the strongest people are not the ones who ignore warnings. They are the ones who recognize them, respect them, and respond with courage. They understand that guidance does not appear to restrict their lives, but to refine them. And once you begin living with that understanding, you may notice something remarkable. The very signals you once feared will become the compass that leads you toward connections that feel calm, honest, and real, the kind that never require you to betray your own sense of truth just to keep them.